We've got Ash Hart, who is the CEO of Green Chili Design. Ray and Ash, how are we both?
Good, thanks. Pleasure to be on.
Can you tell our listeners, the Razor community, a little bit about you and a little bit about Green Chili Design?
Sure. So we're essentially a web design and development company. I started the company about 9 years ago, and I've got like a background in advertising and digital design from back in the UK. So I actually moved to New Zealand and I started the company here, and I've got a real mixture of sort of clients from the UK, New Zealand, Australia. So we're kind of like a global web development company, I guess. And over the years, we've just grown and become very busy. And it's great. It's a very sort of dynamic sort of place to work.
Yeah. And what made you take the leap into business?
Yeah, I think you get to a point where you have to make a decision. And I think a lot of people in the back of their minds think, oh, I'd like to have my a company one day and I'd like to do things myself. And for me, it was kind of there, but I kind of fell into it more organically. It was one of those situations where I was just so busy and I was more of a freelancer and I had lots of clients and I had to make a decision. Do I start turning people away or do I hire staff to help me out? And when I decided to obviously, hire more people, it's then that sort of dawned on me that, this is a company, this is going to be my role now. And so it was kind of like, organic the way it happened.
How many staff members do you actually hire?
So I've got 5 now.
Excellent. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And for the Razor community who's been joining Matt and I on this journey, what we're doing is going a bit, down the path of outsourcing. And one of the reasons why we reached out to you is because we know that you've been outsourcing a lot of the tasks in your day-to-day operation. So share with the Razor community why you decided to outsource as opposed to hiring locally.
Sure. So, I mean, we've got some core developers working for us, and we've got a great team. But we wanted to expand that because we became pretty busy, and we looked at hiring sort of local developers. And one of the issues we found is that either they're already established and they're wanting very sort of high salaries to leave their sort of established companies, or we would get them from university and we would train them up and eventually that they would leave and go and do their overseas experience and we'd have to start over again. So I was speaking to actually Troy Dean from WP Elevation and he said something to me. He said, a lot of developers kind of want to start their own companies and they want to do their own thing. So have you thought about outsourcing? And to be fair, I hadn't really thought about it. And when he mentioned Charlie's company, Outsource Angel, I thought, okay, well, I could give that a go because at least, that is someone else is taking the headache out of it for me. I'm not having to, source people online and sort of interview them myself at that stage. So yeah, it was kind of a suggestion that I hadn't really thought about, to be honest.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, in those early days, did you have any specific tasks in mind for you to outsource, or you were just exploring the idea as a whole and then kind of, retrofit it into your business?
I mean, development was one aspect of it, but the other thing that sort of became apparent is having a virtual assistant, having a VA or a PA, as it would be in reality. And you start thinking to yourself, okay, do I really, should I really be copying and pasting, this Excel data into another Excel file or things like that? And you realize that actually your time's very valuable. So anything like that, you have to give it to a VA. To do and since the more you do that, then the more you look at tasks differently and think should I be doing this or can somebody else do that, and because of that then I realized that a VA was definitely something I wanted in my business, but also it's good to have developers, project managers, any role you can think of really. But it kind of I think it started from having a developer, and then from there I looked at all the other sort of roles that they could give me.
How did you know what to actually outsource? Like, did you have to mind map all the tasks that you had in your business and kind of work out what could be delegated out? Like, how did that process go to knowing what to delegate and to who?
Sure. I mean, it's a difficult thing because I assume that a lot of business owners have this, that you're a bit of a control freak. You like to do everything yourself and you're a perfectionist.
Guilty.
And exactly. And I think I sat down one day and I did a mind map of everything that we did. And I think I chose a color, let's say it was like blue, and I put a block everywhere that I was sort of doing something that was causing a block in our processes because I was too busy to actually do it. And then I thought to myself, okay, what I need to do is remove myself from all of these blocks. And that gave me my task list. That gave me the idea of, okay, these are the things that I can outsource.
Love it, Matt. Seems like we're going to have to add that to our to-do list.
Yeah, I know. Because, Ash, at the moment, we're exploring outsourcing for, the podcast as a starting point and really getting into it because we keep hearing the benefits. And so I guess that's a good segue into have you seen some benefits already? Like what kind of results are you getting from using Outsourcing Angel?
Yeah, I mean, it takes the risk away, really. You can grow rapidly and it will take the risk away. So rather than thinking, do you know what, I want to hire a bunch of project managers, I want to hire a bunch of developers. And if you were to do that in the traditional method, you would have to go through a lengthy sort of recruitment process. And if it didn't quite work out with whoever you decided to hire, then you get to run into legal issues and it's going to be tricky and complex and expensive. And I wanted to do it in a way that was kind of low risk for me because it's always one of those things that you don't really sort of, you can be hesitant to expand because of the risk and the expense, associated with it. And I didn't want to do that. And so it gave me the ability to expand rapidly and test it. I guess it's like staffing in an agile sort of method. It was quite useful, yeah.
So from, I guess, that early stage, those first few steps of, okay, you know what tasks you want to be giving, you want to be outsourcing. How did you go about like putting that into words and like providing, a brief for someone to consume? I guess my question is, how did you go about training, this new person who's new into your business, maybe even new into like the industry? Like, how do you go about training them to make sure they become a good fit in your business?
Yeah, sure. No, that's a very important question. And I think, you have to document everything. I started to do it probably about a couple of years ago, that any task that I was doing more than once, I would document it. If maybe it's just because I would be doing it again the next month and I wanted to remember how to do it. But it also gives you a really good option to hand it off to somebody else. So yeah, I started documenting everything. And I don't know if you've heard of the website Process Street. That's quite a good tool for systemizing, your workflow. So that is one tool I use, and I also use another one called Clarify It, which is, I think, it's a Mac app, and it's really good that you install it on your Mac. You record yourself doing something, and then it spits out images and PDFs and HTML text, and you can create like a little sort of tutorial on how to do something. So these are the sort of methods that I used. And then what I would do, I'd have like an onboarding process with them, talk them through what we did, and just gradually build up this this knowledge base of literally every aspect of the company, from how you speak to clients to how you respond to something that's urgent, to where how you access our dev servers and staging servers and what our protocols are. So I think the first thing to do before you hire anyone, or maybe you could do it whilst you're going through those early stages, but certainly you have to systematize and you have to create tutorials and you have to onboard people, because if you don't do that, then that you don't have a process and it's going to get messy.
Yeah, love that. It's all about the processes, and you've given us a couple of shiny tools to go and test drive. We actually use Process Street, but Clarify It is a new one to my toolbox.
Yeah, sounds great.
I know, it sounds fantastic. Now, I want to go a little bit down the path of, a lot of people think that they can outsource and they kind of do it themselves. Why did you choose to, use a company like Outsourcing Angel to get the tasks done and find the VAs and remote stuff, as opposed to kind of doing it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, who wants to do it themselves? I think I'm already really busy. I'm a very busy person. And if there's a company that I trust to to essentially find these people for me, vet them, and take care of the payroll system, take care of the HR aspect of it. And why wouldn't I do that? That's to me a massive time saving, headache relieving solution. I think that if I was to do it myself, that would be a lot of effort. And that's not something I really wanted to do. I think having a company do that for you is definitely the whole service is very helpful. And as I say, if you've got a problem with anyone, you can go to them. If you have to deal with payroll, you don't have to deal with finding the people in the first place. And you do actually interview them. And I had my own very strict interview process, and I made them go through hoops and code tests and challenges, and I did a Skype interview with them. But essentially, that first step of finding the people in the first place that are actually vetted, they do all that for you. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Love it. So it still sounds like you're quite involved, and you do get your hands dirty, especially in that vetting and finding process. So can you just explain to us in the Razor community, what that process was like for you? Was it a bit daunting? Was it really easy? How did you find yourself when that was kind of going on?
With Outsource Angel?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, it wasn't that hard. I'd already interviewed a lot of developers locally myself, and so I had a process that I used. And I applied the same process to Outsource Angel when I took them on board. But to be honest, the candidates were really good quality to start with. So it didn't take me too long to find the right people. And it was a case of, the other thing is that you can hire people on a full-time basis or a part-time basis, or you can even sort of, what I did is I purchased a number of sort of hours from them and said, hey, let's just see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll try something else, or I'll try somebody else. And because it was so easy to go that method, it was very low risk and very easy to say, okay, well, let's try this guy. He's got all the right credentials. I've ticked off my list. He's passed my test. Let's just get to work on a little project and see if it works. And it did, and I never looked back.
Love it.
That's such a great tip for Razor community to test them out as well. You don't need to give them the logins to your biggest project and give that risk to them. Give them something small. And Ash, do you have an example, or can you remember that kind of smaller development task? What did it look like exactly, and how technical was it?
Sure. So I'll just one more shiny tool. Test for geeks. I think I use that to sort of judge their back end dev and front end development skills. But yeah, once they had passed that, I think it was probably a landing page. So a landing page and some basic sort of WordPress integrations, and you can kind of tell whether people are getting it straight away, and what I would do then is, after they completed the job, I'll show it to one of my other developers and say, hey, have they commented the code well? Is it up to spec? And also the communication was very important to me as well. So did they communicate how long it was going to take? If they found any issues, were they polite? All these sort of things. So yeah, I think starting with a really simple sort of landing page or a HTML email, something simple. You don't want to get your biggest client there and say, okay, right, delve into this site. It's a custom developed site, and let them use on it. That's asking for trouble. So yeah, do something that you can redo quickly if it's not right.
Love it. And the name of that tool again, because I did miss it a little bit.
Sorry, it's called Tests for Geeks.
Ah, yes, cool, excellent. And so one of the other questions that comes up a lot for me and even others is turnover. You spend all this time training people and getting them all up to speed, and then all of a sudden they decide to disappear or they go missing in action and you can't seem to find them anywhere. How does Outsourcing Angels prevent that, and how have you found that? Have you had much turnover, and have the staff always stuck around?
Yeah, no, that's never happened to me with Outsourcing Angel. The staff have pretty much been consistent the entire, through the entire relationship so far. So I've not experienced that, so I can't comment.
Yeah, love it. That's good. That's good to hear. Because there are a lot of horror stories out there, and projects half completed, and the development team disappears, or a lot of horror stories. So I think one of the things that Matt and I have learned in the last couple of weeks interviewing different people and kind of exploring this for ourselves is that, some of these horror stories aren't as, bad when you kind of partner with the right people or you put the right training process in place. I love the fact that you're recording your training sessions and you're onboarding and then you're documenting it, because then it's there forever. And if someone was to kind of disappear, you could just find someone else and say, here's everything I've prepared earlier.
Yeah. Part of it as well is I treat them like I would treat any member of staff, and we're pretty much friends. We have a very good working relationship, and if one of them has a birthday, I'm like, you could go out, buy yourself, lunch, buy the family lunch, send me some photos. So we have a very sort of close relationship, and I think it's important to not treat them as, a disposable resource that you don't really care about because you never see them. To treat each other like sort of, human beings and have a bit of a laugh while you're doing it. I think that's part of the key as well.
Yeah, I love that.
That's great.
Solid advice there. I think, sometimes when going to some of these job network type of job board websites, it is just kind of a bit of a commodity. It's just, task after task, and there isn't that empathy and that human touch that kind of comes behind it. So I think, you make a very valid point to treat them like family and friends and put that human being factor into it, which is probably the reason why the turnover is so low and that everyone kind of enjoys being at work and getting the tasks done professionally and with quality and attention to detail.
And I might, as we, towards the end of this raw edition, Ray, I might throw to you eventually for one last question to finish off the show. But Ash, I also wanted to ask you, like a horror story I hear a lot of the time, and I've, experienced this myself, is that some people seem to spend just a lot of time managing like their VA and their work. And so I wanted to get your kind of way about doing the day-to-day. Like, are there tools that you use to manage like the relationship every week? Like, what do you use to check in with them? Like, I guess my question is, what other resources are involved in this relationship to make sure everyone's on the same page? Sure.
So I think I'm of the school that communication is absolutely key, and to an extent I'll probably over communicate, but I'd rather have everyone over communicating than sending an email to someone and checking back in like in a couple of days and hoping it went okay. And luckily now we have tools like Slack and still use Skype, project management apps. I think we use Trello and teamwork projects, help desk software, and we basically linked it all together with Zapier. So whatever happens, we all get an overview of everything coming into the company and everything that's been worked on, and so we know the status of every single member. We've got Harvest set up as well, so that we know what's been timed, if things are on budget or not. So I think it's just a matter of having, using all the technology you can to have this communication in real time, so everyone knows what's going on, who's working on what, and then you don't run into too many issues because, we're all on the same page, basically.
Now, you've thrown me in the deep end and I've wrecked my brain trying to think of a question. But I guess one of the things, to finish up this interview, and if someone was to walk up to you in the street and ask why they should use Outsourcing Angel, what would be your kind of elevator pitch of why they should use Outsourcing Angels?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like when I first thought about the idea, I was hesitant, but I have not looked back since, working with those guys. They've been brilliant. I think, the level of expertise that these people bring to the table is immense. And, the fact that they find the best people. They're not just finding anyone off the street and saying, here you go, here's a project manager or a developer. That these are guys that they know, and personally in many cases, and they can vouch for them. And literally everyone I've worked with has been fantastic, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them, really.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this raw edition of the Razor Sharp Show. A little bit of a special curveball one, while Matt and I go down the rabbit hole of trying to find our outsourcing angel to edit our podcast.
There's someone for that there. I'm sure there is.
Yeah. Well, we've been chatting, and you're quite right. We're getting a little bit of a first-hand experience as well, where they're asking friends and families of people in the office if anyone knows this tool and that tool, and we're getting down to the point where we are getting to that that point where we can start, shortlisting and interviewing, and it's quite exciting. That's why Matt and I thought this is a great opportunity to chat to existing customers to get, first-hand experience, and so that we don't make mistakes that other people have. And we have this beautiful platform of capturing the audio and sharing it with the Razor community so they can benefit from it as well. It's kind of like open sourcing our outsourcing in a weird meta way. So love it.
So meta.
Love it. Well, Ash, thanks a lot for coming on to the show.
No problem. Thank you.
No worries. And the Razor community, until next time, stay sharp.
Yeah, that was really appreciated, Ash, to come on the show, the Raw edition, and give us his experience and insights with Outsourcing Angel. He gave us a lot of different tools and strategies to make, the process even easier. And, he said it was easy from the outset. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to, getting started with Outsourcing Angel.